There it
Oh,
is.
there it is. Okay, good. Hello and welcome. My name is Margaret McCammon. I am the Portfolio Manager for the MEDC's Entrepreneurship and Innovation team. And I am joined here today by three of the leaders in our space from the Michigan Small Business Development Center. So welcome to Phil Tepley, who is the Director of Technology Commercialization, Alain Piette, who heads the statewide business consulting services, also known as the Tech team, and Clay Phillips, who is the lead in the crucial Michigan sector of mobility technology. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. And Phil, if I may, I'd like to start with you. Could you start by giving us an overview of how the Sbdc can help our entrepreneurs?
Sure. Happy to do that. Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, our mission here is to help Michigan small businesses succeed. We're funded by the MEDC, also the Small Business Administration, and several universities and community colleges throughout the state. And that enables us to provide the service to the entrepreneurs at no cost to them. So the price is right. Right now, all of our services are virtual, no in-person meetings, but we're all looking forward to that day where safe in-person meetings are once again happening, and when that happens, we have offices all around the state. And so, Sbdc helps all types of small businesses, not just tech companies. Today, we're really here to talk about tech companies, but because it's such a challenging time for to run a small business now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what we're doing to help some of the companies, the smallest companies that are hardest hit by the pandemic. So if you go to our website, it's sbdcmichigan.org. The first thing you'll see is a link to COVID-19 business resources. And when you click that, you'll see a catalog of services. And what we've done is we've worked with some private sector consultants to help to be able to provide some of the most important types of assistance, during the pandemic. Things like e-commerce assistance, cash flow management, and HR, during the cash-strapped, stressful period. So the primary target for these services are Main Street type of companies, restaurants, retailers, but one important niche too is daycare providers, which they play a critical role in keeping the economy going. And we're looking at really small companies, pre-pandemic revenue of less than $1 million typically. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that we've got lots of other support for non-tech companies. And so please visit sbdcmichigan.org for those. But yeah, for tech companies, we've got a great partnership, dating back almost 20 years now with the MEDC to help tech companies, because this is a really important niche, to help Michigan's economy grow and to help it be resilient. And so just some examples, types of companies we help, life sciences, therapeutics, diagnostics, med device, advanced manufacturing. We've got some really cool clients doing things to help enable advancements in precision manufacturing or work with more and more materials. Some great energy storage technology, company that's doing increasing safety, efficiency, and manufacturability of batteries. We've got advanced material companies improving properties of common metals or new uses for organic materials, and then lots of IT companies doing different things like improving business processes, or we have some that are helping enable autonomous vehicles. So that's kind of an idea of it's just lots of exciting stuff, and that's who we are fortunate to get to work with. And how do we work with them? Really, there's three programs. The first is the tech team, which Alain manages, and that's a team of 10 consultants. All of these consultants have firsthand expertise doing technology commercialization before joining the SBDC. And the team has complementary areas of expertise to try, we're doing our best to make sure that we can meet business needs. So these are things like marketing, finance, product development, intellectual property, and then in a wide range of the sectors, such as you'll hear from Clay, who's got mobility expertise, for example. And so this team helps companies, working directly with them to develop commercialization strategies and to help as they are executing them. We do provide direct support to our clients, but we also work very closely with business accelerators, incubators, pre-seed funds, universities, angel groups, and others, and try to help companies navigate these groups. So that's the tech team, and then the next program is the Business Accelerator Fund. This is a fund for business accelerators, not directly for companies. The accelerators are really through, you've probably heard of Michigan Smart Zone Network. And so that's the accelerators in the Smart Zone Network. They apply for small grants to hire to even a more specialized level of services for companies and some technical services that might not be available through the accelerator staff or through the SBDC. And so some of the common things, they might hire a law firm to help with intellectual property. That's one of the most common. Sometimes third-party technology or product testing or validation, or sometimes some engineering services where the clients have developed advanced technology, but there's some finalization need to turn it into a product that can actually be used by customers. So that's the Business Accelerator Fund. For companies who are interested in that, they should really contact their Smart Zone, their closest Smart Zone, because again, it is a program that gives grants to the accelerators. And then the last program, under the SBDC Tech Commercialization is the Emerging Technologies Fund. This is a matching fund for a federal program called Small Business Innovative Research Program, or SBIR. The federal government provides grants to small businesses to help them develop potentially commercially viable technology. These grants can be at the low end $50,000, but they can go a couple $1 million. Most, if not all, of the money from the federal government, though, has to be spent on research and development. And so that's where the Emerging Technology Fund comes in, is that we allow the companies or require the companies to spend the money on commercialization activities. So again, intellectual property, a very common one across all the programs. Marketing, sometimes they'll buy equipment for short run manufacturing, some prototype work, trade shows. Costs for trade shows are very, very common. So to learn about it, that's a companion program, again, to SBIR. And so to learn about the SBIR program, I recommend going to sbir.gov. We have a great group in Michigan called BBC who helps with SBIR, and their website is bbcetc.com. And then, of course, the Emerging Technologies Fund website is mietf.org, where we have the program rules and where we take applications. So, and then the website for all this stuff I talked about for the SBDC anyway is sbdcmichigan.org/tech-business.
Great, thanks, Phil. That's really, really helpful. So I'm particularly interested, looking forward, what kind of trends do we expect to see in tech entrepreneurship in 2021, and what tips and resources can we share with our budding entrepreneurs as we come out of COVID? So Alain, your team spans the entirety of the state. What kind of feedback are you seeing from them?
Thank you, Maggie. Our role is basically to make the clients, the entrepreneurs, successful. And people always ask us, what about money? Where do I find money? What's happening on a national perspective and then on a state perspective? On a national perspective in 2020, and we see it continuing in 2021, we see that venture capital and angel groups, which last year were somewhat conservative and very cautious with their money, are now becoming back quite active. PitchBook, which is a leading publication for the venture capital industry, is indicating that the VC investment outlook will continue to be very strong, but very specifically in the high-tech, in the healthcare spaces. These two sectors have grown even more important during this pandemic. Interesting to notice that the larger VC firms surprisingly have quite a bit of capital available to invest in those types of companies. They are really not that interested in the general investment. What we've also seen as a trend towards the end of 2020 and then in 21 is the popularity of non-dilutive financing options. Regulatory changes in crowdfunding and the adoption of rolling funds by prominent angels have opened new sources of capital. And that seems to be vehicles that the entrepreneurial community is very interested in. Non-traditional investors like family funds, high net worth individuals, and strategic partners have evolved their strategies to become even more involved in financing technologies and have become main drivers in it. About the Michigan ecosystem, Cranes has reported that despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic collapse, it has done little to dampen the enthusiasm of the Michigan angel and the VC groups to make investments. In 2020, these Michigan-based groups were very conservative, like the rest of the nation, and hesitant to make investments. But by mid-year last year, we've seen a lot of applications being submitted and reviewed and being funded. The angel groups have also grown in the state of Michigan, and by example, there are 2 new angel groups, the Archangels, consisting of financial investors from the Chaldean community, and a Detroit-based commune angel emerging, and these are funds designed with inclusive principles in mind. I want to thank the MEDC because they have seen the importance of that early stage investment, and they have continued to fund that side of the ecosystem and have managed and have invested their 3rd pre-seed fund called Michigan Rise. That fund has been operational for less than 6 months and has already made a very big impact on the early stage technology ecosystem. The Michigan Angels and the VC networks are committed to the ecosystem, but it doesn't mean that money is easily available and readily available without proper preparation. Good deals will be funded, but it is important that the entrepreneur and the company realize that well-developed marketing plans, well-thought-out financial plans, are the key to improving their success. And I want to encourage everybody that is receptive to work with the Sbdc tech team to enhance their odds by us being their advocate in the preparation of the documentation and then the advocate in front of the investment community. Now, people always say, well, it's easy to say that the deals are good. And I wanted to finish by giving you examples of 2 companies that very recently have been funded at high levels. Work It Health raised $12 million in the latter part of 2020. And just this week, Evoc announced that they raised $240 million. So it shows that there is a healthy ecosystem in the state of Michigan, well supported by the state and well supported by an Sbdc tech team that looks out to make you successful.
Great, thank you, Alain. That's super important information. Thank you. So Clay, mobility is obviously going to be hugely important for the state, kind of recovery and growth as we come out of COVID. Can you give us some feedback from what you're seeing from that side of things?
Certainly. Thanks, Maggie. I think I'll organize my remarks on what we're seeing in the industry with auto and the mobility industry, and then I've got some comments on the whole mobility entrepreneur ecosystem in the state and beyond the state. But it's pretty clear the pandemic hit the auto industry really hard. Sales collapsed, production was stopped for about 2 months, supply chain froze. Pretty rough going. It's recovered faster than a lot of the analysts in March, April, May thought, but it's still pretty fragile. And on the mobility side, mass market, mass transit and mobility as a service like Uber and Lyft and such, they got decimated as well. But there was a really interesting pivot in the mobility as a service business away from moving people to moving goods, as we're all now getting things delivered to our houses. So, there was a little bit of a silver lining in that. But that's just. But then this hit the startups as well, both the advanced auto and the advanced mobility startups. And it was a range of things. Companies working with strategics found their projects delayed or slowed as the strategics, the OEMs and the larger companies focused more on current operations and saving the business. So that was kind of a natural thing. There were some cases of early stage capital getting cold feet or looking for modified terms. But on the other hand, there were several companies that stood up and they pivoted and they were able to apply their product or service to solve a pandemic problem. And we helped fund some of that. Planet M helped fund some of that. So there were some really interesting success stories of turning lemons into lemonade within this community. But, I stand back from that. Overall, there's still, I think, a very clear tide towards autonomy, connectivity, electrification and propulsion, shared mobility, and all the technologies that go around that, and a lot of that comes from startups and startups working with these existing companies or with new tech companies. So I think the bottom line, I think the end result is probably going to be the same at some point in the future. It's just the route taken and the ETA may have changed a bit, but I'm pretty confident that this is the direction of the industry, the auto and the mobility industry. Now, on the ecosystem side, what's going on in Michigan? I think the big news last year was clearly the formation of the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification under Trevor Paul. That provides a wonderful umbrella organization. It's very forward-leaning. It's all about new tech. It's all about new business models, and it provides a very coherent strategy and organization to help the whole state manage the transition. We've also, in the 2.5 years that I've been with Sbdc in this role, I've seen really interesting growth and expansion of mobility capabilities at our smart zones. Like Ann Arbor Spark, I work with them very closely, Automation Alley, Centropolis, fairly new with Lawrence Tech University. And then there's aviation aerospace activity in Traverse City and the maritime at MTU. So there's expansion in those activities. And then finally, on the private sector incubator, Techstars was here for several years. They closed up shop, but Plug and Play is coming in, and we've got New Lab coming in this year as well. So, you sew all this together. We've got an industry that's struggling, a lot of advanced technology demand that's coming from the startups. We've got this very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem in the state that's getting better by the day. And so when I look at this, I see tons of opportunity. And not just for our role at the Sbdc, where we're in the weeds every day working with these companies. And I'll amplify Alain's comment. I use the term sometimes accelerating success. So the bottom line then is so that Michigan and the companies in Michigan that are here are the ones that we can attract. We'll make sure that Michigan is not just playing a role in advanced mobility, but is a leader in this, and not just leader in the U.S., but leader in the world. And so I got tons of optimism that we're standing up to the challenge, and we will get it. We will get through this.
Great, thank you, Clay. That's excellent.
My pleasure.
So Phil, it sounds as if our tech startup ecosystem kind of faced the challenges of 2020 pretty well, and we seem to fare pretty okay. Kind of to close out, what are your thoughts for 2021?
Yeah, well, I would say that 2020, it was feared the worst. And unfortunately for a lot of companies and people, it was as bad as we feared. But at the same time, there was much more good news than I ever would have expected. And that good news hopefully will spread, that there should be ripple effect from it. For 2021, before commenting on 2021, just a reflection back, because I've been working with tech startups for quite some time now. And it's just amazing to see how Michigan has changed. It's always tough, I'm sure even in Silicon Valley, it's tough to do a tech startup. It's never going to be easy, but wow, Michigan was so difficult in the, before 2010, even before the Great Recession, it was just a challenge. And it's just the once in 10 year successes, we're now seeing a couple a year now. And so Michigan has really come along. A lot of that is due to the MEDC's support of this, what we like to call the ecosystem. The universities have been very involved in supporting that, and private sector is I'd like to see more, but getting more and more involved in supporting that. So it really is, it's just amazing to see. I'd much rather start a tech company in Michigan today than 10 years ago. The pandemic, we're in the world, anything can happen right now. And so it is hard to make predictions. And for some sectors, it's still going to be really, really tough. But I think, as Alain and Clay pointed out, for some others, there really are some opportunities. And one thing I guess that is nice for a tech company is when you have developed some, really compelling technology that can provide massive advantage for your customers over their other opportunities, their other options, there still are opportunities for you. So, I mean, it's always hard. It's always a tough thing to do, but for those who are going to do it, I say still do it. But yeah, just be smart about what sector you're in. Are you in a growing sector? Or are you in a tough one? And take care of your personal finances, your family needs as you do it. But then the other recommendation is visit michiganbusiness.org because, the Sbdc is just one of many programs that MEDC supports to help tech entrepreneurs. And if you go to michiganbusiness.org, if you click on services, you'll scroll down to entrepreneurial opportunity and you'll see lots that's available. So yeah, it's no reason not to take advantage of that. And then again, just for our website, and we have requests for counseling. If you need assistance, our website again is sbdcmichigan.org.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks very much, guys. That's really important information and really good feedback. And thank you to everyone else who tuned in. And just again to repeat, as Phil said, the MEDC website is michiganbusiness.org/entrepreneurship, and that will take you to these programs and others. So thank you very much again, and we'll speak again soon.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.